Hello guys, I know we just covered another overhaul mod for Borderlands 2 called Exodus, and my full guide is still coming for that one, but another overhaul mod was released called Borderlands 2 Classic and was made by Aaron, who has worked on a ton of different mods for Borderlands 2, and this one actually makes Borderlands 2 play more like Borderlands 1. So enemies drop the weapons they're using, tweaks have been made to element, there is the original Borderlands 1 scaling so there aren't huge numbers, and so much more. Before I get into that, as with all mods, they don't work on console, and this mod should not be used with any other mods like Reborn. They're super easy to install. Once you go on Nexus Mods, just download it, bring it into your binaries folder with all your other mods, and then execute it the same way you would anything else. With that out of the way, let's start getting into some changes. They recommend this should be used by starting with a new character. He says it most likely won't delete any gear or weapons on old characters, but it can still mess with parts on certain weapons, and mostly with grips on weapons, so they might spawn back into your game even if you aren't using the mod with the wrong parts attached. Weapons are completely overhauled to reflect Borderlands 1. So barrels, sights, accessories, and stocks all replicate their respective parts from Borderlands 1. Also, the bodies normally used for common to very rare weapons now correspond to bodies 2 through 5 of Borderlands 1. Grips now serve as the equivalent of Borderlands 1 magazines, therefore some grips shouldn't be on some weapon types. Also, additional accessories have been made to go along with Borderlands 1's accessories. Special weapons are now converted and adjusted to fit Borderlands 1's scaling, with some getting buffed or nerfed depending on the item. Splash and critical damage boosts have now been adjusted on a case-by-case basis. Normal Malawan pistols, snipers, Torg pistols, and shotguns / assault rifles all have less damage, but 50% splash damage. They also fire projectiles at normal speed, so there's no more gyro jets for Torg. Hyperion also no longer has inverted recoil, so it won't get more and more accurate. Dahl no longer burst fires while aiming down the sights in most cases, and Jacobs no longer fires as fast as you can pull the trigger. So another huge thing they did for weapons is they made all the existing weapons match into certain archetypes from Borderlands 1. So Dahl, Hyperion, and Tediore pistols are now repeaters. Jacobs, Malawan, and Torg are now revolvers. And then Bandit and Vladolf are now machine pistols. Dahl and Jacobs assault rifles have now been converted to combat rifles. Bandit, Vladolf, and Torg assault rifles are now support machine guns, and can only spawn with Torg and Vladolf sights like it was in Borderlands 1. Moving on to shotguns, Bandit and Hyperion shotguns are now assault shotguns, and Jacobs, Tediore, and Torg are now combat shotguns. Dahl and Hyperion are now semi-automatic sniper rifles, and Jacobs, Malawan, and Vladolf are normal sniper rifles, with shields somewhere in between Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, largely due to Borderlands 2 having a lot more shield parts than Borderlands 1, but the overall max capacity, delay, and rate should be similar to Borderlands 1. We also get the special bonuses that Borderlands 1 had, so Tediore shields now have bonus recharge rate and delay, Pangolin shields have bonus capacity, and Anshin shields have passive health regen. As for grenades are not changed too much in this mod, so they're pretty similar to how they worked in Borderlands 2. Class mods are largely the same as well as they were in Borderlands 2. The only changes were to health regeneration to better suit adjusted player health. So one of the bigger things they added were hybrid weapons. So it says the fabled trophy guns from Borderlands 1 return. 45 pieces of gear await for you to claim for your own. In Borderlands 1, hybrid weapons were guns that could spawn with more than just one special ability. The most popular example of this was probably Ajax's spear, which could spawn with an ogre accessory and then would become the ogre, which was one of the most hunted for weapons in Borderlands 1, especially with a Blastmaster brick, for one example. And they have a new name, new thing for you to find. There's 45 of them. I'm not going to cover them all in this video, but I'll go over a few. So there's the Bada Boom Roaster, which is now called the Bada Roaster. There's the Madhouse Chopper, which is called the Chop House. There's the Hornet Teapot, which is the T-Net. Pitchfork Sloth, which is the Sloth Fork. There's the Varrook Seraphim, which is the Seraph Varrook. And the Varrook Scorpio, which is the Varrookio. And so many more. Honestly, they're really fun to find. I'd highly recommend it, even if you guys didn't want everything else, just to find these new weapons and play around for them. So they didn't just add these weapons, they also modified legendaries themselves. They brought back the different types of oranges for all legendaries. So darker orange legendaries are technically better. There's the lighter legendaries, which are technically worse. There are also more rarity options that you can turn on optionally through the BLCMM. I'm not going to get too much into that in this video, but it's all inside the download, so you guys can check that out and see if you want to change those. Drops as well were changed, so drops are a lot more generous compared to normal Borderlands 2. Legendaries now have a 1 in 500 chance instead of a 1 in 10,000. Even in my short time of playing, I've gotten a few legendary world drops already. It feels really fun and it's awesome to see because it almost never happens, at least for me in Borderlands 2. Raid bosses were also changed in this way. So now raid bosses should drop a few world drop legendaries along with purples, and they wanted it to be more reminiscent of Cromarax in Borderlands 1, but not as excessive. So you really get that explosion of loot and it actually feels rewarding. You can get upgraded legendaries very quickly. Another big change was to the elements. They work similar to how they do in Borderlands 1 minus the tech. Because of the lack of tech, they only have a 20% damage reduction compared to Borderlands 1's 40% damage reduction. Also, corroding an enemy does make them more vulnerable to damage, and slag, it now works as a debuff for enemies. As for scaling, Borderlands 2 scaling is now similar, if not identical to Borderlands 1 scaling. You'll see that as soon as you start this mod up, or if you've been watching this gameplay. Numbers are so small. It does make the game pretty easy, but it's fun, it's thoughtless, you can go in, you don't feel like you're always trying to do health gate, you don't really need a ruby or anything like that anymore. It's a lot of fun to play around with, and not everything needs to be super difficult. Even OP8 late game damage numbers tend to be in the thousands instead of millions, and OP8 can be played super easily. For some of my characters, I only have OP6 gear, and it was still a breeze. They brought back some very popular returning accessories from Borderlands 1 as well, so you can find Masher accessories, Double Anarchy accessories, the 5 Burst Rocket Launcher Barrel, and the Triple Shot Rocket Launcher Barrel. Another small thing they added was being able to equip a weapon above your own level, up to 2 levels, which is cool. And on top of that, it includes a tweaked version of Shadow Evil's unofficial community patch 4.1, so a lot of those changes are in there. It includes Kobe's, Nocturne, and Jim Raven's Vendors Enhanced fix, and It's Me Doggo's Borderlands 1 scaling mod. There's a ton more. A lot of people by association really helped with this and really helped Aaron get this out here. So for my general thoughts, I'm a huge fan of these game overhauls. I played the community patch a ton when it was first released, then moved on to Borderlands 2 Reborn and was playing that. And I was just planning on jumping over to Exodus, but now with this out as well, I could see myself definitely spending time in both, just as a way to freshen up Borderlands 2 before Borderlands 3 comes out. As I mentioned earlier, this mod is not meant to be a challenge, but Borderlands 1 is relatively easy in general, and it translates very nicely over to Borderlands 2. In my time playing, I've gotten a few world drops already, and legendaries have been really fun to find again, even with only playing an hour or two. In my experience, the bosses still feel strong enough and can't be destroyed as quickly as in vanilla Borderlands 2. I fought the Handsome Sorcerer, and it actually took me moving around his mechanics, destroying his pets, and then working my way to him, which is way different than Borderlands 2 with a Sandhawk and Bee Shield when he can just be mowed down almost instantly. Finding the new gear is a ton of fun, and even just the small modifications like having the dark orange legendaries again or light orange is more fun. Scrolling through gear, seeing what's still in, seeing what's been tweaked, seeing some of the better weapons just get taken out of circulation. So a lot of cool things in this. I personally can't wait to put some more time in it, and you guys will probably be seeing this and Exodus being used in the background of a lot of my videos. I would highly recommend you guys check it out as well. That's where I'm going to end this video though. Make sure to like and share, subscribe for all things Borderlands, and I will see you guys in the next one.